Morning, this is Brian. Today is Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. And I'm here at Rose Canyon Open Space, parked right up there at the end of Regents Road here in San Diego. So I'm back here, just hanging out in one of my coastal canyon sites. Last week I didn't go out, but last 3 weeks before it, I've been spending my time at Cuyamaca Rancho. Today, it's time to go back to some coastal canyon scenery. So I've been over this way a few times. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to head down to the bottom of the canyon, turn right, and head towards the very lush wooded area. So here we are, back to a familiar sight. Our little peach trees right here are starting to develop their fruits on them. Looking nice. Maybe in a month or two I can come here for a quick trailside snack. So it's been a while since I've been down here. It's been since October since I've been to Rose Canyon. So it's time to come back. Maybe find a spotlight video or something today as well, hopefully. It's been a couple weeks. Hopefully, since I'm here in San Diego proper, maybe I can get to a Trees of San Diego or something of the sort as well. Hopefully something like that. It's been a long time since I've done any of those videos too, and it's long overdue. Here we are heading down the canyon. We'll see what kind of cool stuff I can find today. Alright, first stop on our botanical beauty tour is our Rosa Californica, California Rose. You're thinking, that's what this canyon is named after. Believe it or not, I believe it's named after a guy named Lewis Rose. I think he had some important stake in this area. So it's named after a guy named Lewis Rose, according to this one book called, the title, Canyoneer's Guide to Outdoors or something. It's a really large book about hikes and natural history here in San Diego County. But yeah, Rose Canyon is not named after the Rosa Californica, the California rose that grows here. It's actually named after a person. I believe his name was Lewis Rose. So, just a little bit of trivia, despite the fact that Rosa Californica is very common here. Some of their native restorations are doing pretty well. Look at this. Black sage right here. Up the hill a little bit, there's another patch of really rampantly growing native. And then we got western vervain right here, Verbena laciostatus. Look at that, it's blooming too. I've been noticing that along the side of the trail a little bit here and there as well. So after the copious winter rains we had, our natives here that were planted during the drought have now really started coming into their own. And it is so satisfying to see these little coastal California buckwheats, black sages. So pretty satisfying. Alright, I'll see you up the way as I'm turning right, heading towards the Genesee Avenue portion of this. And we'll see what else we find today. So I noticed when I've been driving, I was driving along the 52 to get here, to get to Regents Road. I noticed a lot of the sycamores didn't look so so healthy. A lot of them look like they have aborted their leaves. Well, something I know I've read up on a long time ago and have noticed it repeatedly in my life of observing our natives is that sycamores often abandon their first crop of leaves due to this, I believe it's a fungus called anthracnose or something like that. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. But you'll notice that in the springtime, a lot of sycamores, leaves will dry up and fall off, and then they have to leaf out a second or maybe even a third time. Well, the fungus really affects the new foliage when it's really humid in the spring. Now, here's weird. The weird thing is, after March, we barely had any rain after the month of March has ended. But we have had a lot of humidity. And a lot of humidity will cause the fungus to grow on the leaves. And then the fungus will cause the first crop of leaves to die off. So the plant will have to get a second crop of leaves. It looks like that's got to be the case. So there's a lot of the sycamore trees are kind of sparse, looking kind of sickly actually. I do see a lot of new leaves on them. Just usually you'd think by now everything would be fully green. But yeah, I think it's an anthracnose fungus or something like that. That in the spring during particularly humid weather that occurs. Maybe the rains of late March and the often constant marine layer. You would think the marine layer, but the marine layer hadn't been a really big factor until recently. So it's kind of interesting to think about, but it is what happens when sycamore trees leaf out, and there's a lot of humidity in the air and stuff like that. So usually, I mean, it does look kind of distressing, but usually the trees are able to get a second crop of leaves without impunity. So we'll just keep checking them on. But today being May 23rd, I would have thought by now that they would have gotten over it. We'll see. I'm not too worried. I'll keep an eye on them, obviously. But we are heading eastbound, or northeast, here in Rose Canyon. And I'll keep you updated with more stuff. Here's an old friend. This old elderberry. This old blue elder right here. This is the one I think I did the spotlight video on. I don't know. Actually, I don't even remember the one I did the spotlight video on, but I did a spotlight video on this plant last year, on this species. This is this old, really thick multi-trunk. I know I got footage of this one once, back in June of last year. Just incredible, the trunks on this plant. That's the Sambucus nigra subspecies Cerulea. Very old specimen. Really cool. I think I did the spotlight in Tecolote Canyon. For some reason, my memory doesn't serve me well. I know I did a spotlight on it last year. I think it was in Tecolote. I think. I'm in Tecolote Canyon. Yeah, I think so. But I have passed by that big beauty once before. And this is the portion of Rose Canyon where I did the spotlight on Western Poison Oak, which is this right here. This really luscious thicket right here. Spotlighted that last June. It was here in Rose Canyon for sure. So we're just about to hit the real woodsy part of the hike. That's kind of why I wanted to go this way today. ready to head into it right now, to the beautiful woodsy part of the hike. Yep, there's our western poison oak. Really luscious. Look at how big the leaflets are on it. Very large leaflets on those poison oak plants. The grass is still pretty green down here too. In the shade of these coast live oaks and sycamores. Little side trail probably goes up to somebody's house on the top of the rim. Now, this is one of the really beautiful stretches of this. Basically in this beautiful coast live oak woodland here. This old growth sycamore right here has broken off, but it has regrown. All right. And so what's this over here? I wonder where this leads. Almost out by Genesee already. Looks interesting. Ooh. Chaparral bush mallow, Malacothamnus fasciculatus, Freddy fasciculatus. Okay. Little coast live oak seedling. Some black sage still blooming. Been blooming since March and still going strong. Ooh. Here's a big scrub oak right here. This looks like a Quercus dumosa too. Coastal scrub oak. Pretty nice sized one. Wow. There's even an interpretive sign by it. Wow, this is a pretty cool little spot. This must be an interpretive trail or something. Just gotta follow this on a short distance. Really not super far from the Genesee Avenue part here. There's a bladder pod in here. More California rose. It's a pretty cool little trail. I think this just loops back to the main canyon trail. This is very dark and shady over here. Wow. All right. Just loops back. It's just a little side trail. Definitely a quick little side shoot worth exploring. I never really noticed it until now. Catalina cherry. Or, no, this is hollyleaf cherry. Prunus ilicifolia. I was thinking this was Catalina cherry. Prunus ilicifolia linei. Never noticed this the first time I was here. So this is kind of intermediate between regular hollyleaf cherry, Prunus ilicifolia, and Catalina cherry, Prunus ilicifolia linei. But it appears closer to the regular hollyleaf cherry form. They're both different subspecies of the same species. Catalina cherry being usually taller, larger leaved than the more shrubby formed hollyleaf cherry, regular hollyleaf cherry. And it's in bloom right now too. Pretty cool. Never noticed this the first time I was here. Interesting. Okay, well, I'm back on the trail I was on before, and now I'm gonna work my way over towards the end of the trail. Well, the end of this portion of the trail by Genesee Avenue, and then see what's good over there. All right, so we're coming up to Genesee Avenue right up here, with a nice little skyline of beautiful Torrey pines. Very beautiful. Some more scrub oak action over here. Wow. This one with the larger leaf action here looks more like a cutadens than dumosa. The one I pointed out on the side trail in the last clip was definitely dumosa. Tiny sized leaves. Yeah, this one appears to be an acutadens right here. It's a taller one right here with much larger leaves. And then we got some Matiliha poppies over here too. And what species do we have here? These ones appear to be Coulter's Matiliha poppy, Rhamnia coulteri. This is the largest flower of any California native plant, right here. The last time I was here, I thought these were hairy Matiliha poppies, Rhamnia trichocalyx, but these would be bristly. These are bald. So this is telling me this is actually Coulter's Matiliha poppy, which is not supposed to be very common here in San Diego County. So this appears to be Rhamnia coulteri, Coulter's Matiliha poppy. I think last time, I mistaken them as hairy Matiliha poppies. That's the species. Rhamnia trichocalyx is one you'd expect to see more here than you would the Coulter's Matiliha poppy, which is, again, not very common here in San Diego County. Ooh, and we got here Fork stem Ceanothus verrucosus, and it's developing its seed capsules right there. Yeah, I spotlighted this one on February 7th at Soledad Natural Park near La Jolla. So, yeah, appears that we have Coulter's Matiliha poppy. I assumed that they were hairy Matiliha poppies incorrectly. So last time, I think they were in full bloom, and they didn't have any new buds. And we still have a lot of foliage here on the beautiful Ribes speciosum, the fuchsia flower gooseberry. It's now out of bloom, and I'm trying to see if I see any gooseberries developing, but I don't. Kind of surprised. I would have expected to see fruits on this plant unless they already matured and dropped off. But yeah, this is a fuchsia flower gooseberry here. Pretty soon though, probably within the next month or two, they're going to shed their leaves and go completely leafless, as we are now getting pretty deep into the dry season. It's been quite a while since we've had an appreciable rain out here, which is typical for this time of year. But yeah, still got the glossy, beautiful green leaves on it. Very beautiful plant. And I'm assuming these plants will probably stay green longer because of the fact that we had so much rain this year. And then there's still a flower there. Pretty cool. So, all right, my battery's about to die, so I'm gonna have to go into another clip. I'll see ya. I might go cross the street here. My assumptions might still be wrong. See, these ones actually have the little bristles on them. So I might have been right about this. This might be Romnea trichocalyx. Yeah, these have the bristles on them. So this is Romnea trichocalyx. Alright. So I'm across the street. I'm gonna see if this leads down into the canyon. So I think it's supposed to. So let's see. Here's some University City High School right here. So I'm on the other side of Genesee. Didn't really film too much along that short walk. A, it's along a busy, noisy road. B, I didn't think that'd be too interesting except for that Monteleha poppy. So yeah, I looked at the buds on those Monteleha poppies on the side of the road, and those ones had the little bristles on the buds. So that's how I figured I was looking at Romnea trichocalyx. So our two species are very similar. Very similar. Very hard to tell apart. But the flower buds are usually your telltale sign that they tend to have little bristles on them. And the first one I examined didn't seem to have bristles on it during one of the previous clips. But the ones along the side of Genesee Avenue had small bristles on them. So I was thinking to myself, it's got to be trichocalyx. So yeah, this does appear to be a trail. Never been to this part of the canyon before. So this is new territory for me. Again, you got the high school up here. And you got some more portions of the canyon over here. So I'm just curious as to what kind of cool stuff is over here. Well, right off the bat, we've got a nice eucalyptus grove here. Looks like mostly Eucalyptus comodulensis, the river red gum. Over here we got some Fremont cottonwoods. So let's see, what kind of cool stuff am I going to find on this side of the canyon? Alright, well, I'll get back to you when I come up to my first find. The California scrub jay. You can hear it. There's squeaky little things going on. Look at the little birds, baby birds in there. Ooh, there's a California scrub jay right there. Ooh, a bunch of them. Look at this. Wow. It's a whole conglomeration of scrub jays. Really cool. Got a little Aphelocoma californica action going on this morning. That's pretty cool. Oh, there's a nice old Coast live oak on this side of the hill. This north-facing slope here. Wow, that's a pretty big tree. Wow, that's a pretty decent sized one, especially for one growing up on a slope like that. Usually those ones are a little bit smaller, usually, unless they're closer to the bottom, but that's a very decent sized Orchis agrifolia variety agrifolia. It's got a pretty nice base on it too. That's impressive. That's a nice old tree. Wow, that's a pretty big one. Ooh, yeah, it's pretty cool down here. Pretty woodsy over here. I'm just trying to see what kind of interesting things I'm going to find here, and so far it's not disappointing in the least. Okay, well, let's see what we can find up the way. Alright, so I'm over this little drainage culvert here. There's a huge coast live oak in here too. There's another old tree right here with a very respectable base on it too. So that's pretty neat. Yeah. Tree's got a pretty big trunk on it. Wow. Bet you some of those are some pretty old ones too. Wow. Okay, and we got something else interesting coming up. I think this is a type of mullein. It's in the genus Verbascum. It's definitely not Verbascum thapsus, which is the big, huge woolly mullein. I believe this one is Thapsus virgatum, or something like that. Thapsus virgatum, or something like that. I think that's what this one is. Juan mullein. I forget the common name. But this is a non-native plant, like its related Verbascum thapsus that you usually find in grassy areas in the mountains. This is a lower elevation one. I'm pretty sure that's what this is here. I think this is Verbascum Verbascum virgatus, or something like that. Every now and then I come across it here in the lowlands. Usually the other one's a little bit higher up in the mountains. Both of them are not natives, but do occur here, and that would be in the figwort family, the Scrophulariaceae. Somebody down there in the bike trailer, biking down the trail or something. Here's a pretty wet spot right here. Pretty interesting. All right. Well, maybe I'll get lucky and find a trail to go down in there. All right. Onward and here I am, once again, along this trail. I could smell these. Sambucus nigra, subspecies Cerulean. They actually give off a slight fragrance. I never really noticed that before. But I kind of smell a little slight perfume aroma in the air. So I put my nose next to these, and they actually have a nice fragrance. I never really noticed that before. I don't know how. I'm usually pretty observant, especially with plants. But yeah, we're starting to get the berries here, and the flowers here. So yeah, they do have a fragrance to them. I don't know why I never really noticed them. I don't know how, I just don't know how I don't notice. But here we go. Now we got some thickleaf yerba santa blooming right now too. Eriodictyon crassifolium variety crassifolium. So yes, the wildflower parade continues as we move through into late spring now. So looks like we're going to be in a small population of yerba santa, which is always very nice to see, especially mid-spring with the purple flowers on it. Very beautiful. Very beautiful plant. All year, but when it blooms especially. All right, a nice little coast live oak. Young one right here. Very beautiful. Very beautiful young guy. There's more of that Newlane. Again, this one is a different species than the one you typically see like around Big Bear and higher up in the mountains. And those ones usually have much larger, woollier leaves and get much larger in size and much thicker. This is pretty cool. Some pretty cool stuff here. It's one thing you want to watch out for when you're hiking this trail. There's a lot of western poison oak along here. And I mean a lot of it. On both sides of the trail. The wetter side down the canyon and even the drier side up here. So just watch where you go. Earlier, when I was in the real dark woodsy part on the other side of Genesee, I saw this homeless guy sitting on a bench with his bike right across the trail on the other side. And I noticed the guy's bike was leaning up against a branch of poison oak. I was thinking to myself, oh boy. I mean, if I would have seen him before he put his bike there, I could have said, hey, that's poison oak right there. But I don't think it would do any good now. Maybe he's used to it, maybe he's immune to it, I don't know. Alright, so I think kind of at the end of this trail here. Just want to see, because I saw somebody with a bike down here. Just want to see if there's a trail get down here. Okay, so I managed to get down here in the creek bed. Very good. So, not really supposed to walk along power line right at the railroad right away. Whew. The soil's pretty loose here. So, trying to stay away from that. Alright, let's go walk here in the wash. Let's see what cool things we can find in here. There's a little mist in the air today, a little very light drizzle action. Kind of feels good. It is kind of balmy out today. There's a large old sycamore right here. Pretty large old California sycamore. Yeah. First I thought this was a rose bush, but no, this is more of that western poison oak. Very luscious around the base of this beautiful old sycamore tree. I was mentioning about the anthracnose fungus that ruined. See, you see these newer these little leaves here were killed off. That's due to, I believe, like I said, I believe it's a fungus that does that, and then it sprouts a new crop of leaves after it. And I think this year, with the extra wet beginning to the spring, they've kind of struggled a little bit more this year. But I do see lots of newer leaves coming out. So hopefully soon this tree will be back to its big leafy glory. But yeah, it boarded a lot of young flowers, A lot of young flowers that didn't get a chance to ripen as well, because sycamore trees will bloom as soon as they start leafing out. Okay. Let's see what else we could find. It's very beautiful down here. There's another plant that's fairly common in this area, and that's a relative of our California sagebrush. This is Palmer's sagewort with these finely dissected, pinnately lobed leaves. This is Artemisia palmeri, Palmer sagewort. It's a local endemic, basically here in San Diego County and I believe northern Baja as well, and coastal to near coastal foothill. So it's a pretty cool little find that you'll see fairly often in these canyons here in San Diego. And I'm basically in the community of University City, which is not a separate city, it's actually a community of San Diego. And we're just north of my old stomping grounds of Claremont. Really close to Claremont. And you can see what the rains have done. You can tell this is the downflow section. So you can see the water carried all this debris against the trunk of this Eucalyptus camaldulensis here. So very beautiful, vigorous young tree. Very beautiful. Here's a flower. Close up of the flower. It's basically all white stamens, no petals. And it's characteristic of the genus Eucalyptus. And yet, without petals, when they flower in mass, eucalyptus trees can be quite showy. In that sense, they can be quite showy as well. I have a small blister on the back of my left heel right now. It's kind of irritating me. And I'm walking on this rocky terrain, which means my shoes rubbing against it a lot. I don't know why. It must be a blister or a little scrape or something. It's very irritating. It's a pretty cool area. But such a short time after the rainy season ended, it's all basically dry down here now. So you know that this is more of a seasonal arroyo, or a wash, as they call it in Spanish, is arroyo. If you hear the name arroyo, it means wash. Especially here in the Southwest, the name arroyo is very common. Arroyo Seco in the San Gabriel Mountains, and Arroyo Seco Fire Road in Cuyamaca Rancho basically means dry wash. This is basically an Arroyo Seco of Rose Canyon. It's a dry wash. But over here, we still have some nice orange California poppies still blooming. These ones are beautiful. These ones are really nice. A lot of the ones I've seen here in San Diego and vicinity tend to be a little more of a yellowish color, but these ones have a really rich orange. Very rich orange color. Now, the California poppy is a plant with different behavior depending on where it comes from. Now, it's native to a huge chunk of our state, the California poppy. The ones, of course, a Marine jet has to fly nearby as I'm getting ready to talk. The California poppies from further up north reproduce generally annually by seeds. The California poppy is typically listed as an annual to maybe short-lived perennial, but the ones from further up north generally reproduce without needing fire. But I've read that the ones here in Southern California typically reproduce more with fire. Kind of interesting. You know, different environments, different plant behaviors. same species. I don't think California poppy is divided into subspecies, at least not in my knowledge about the plant. But it is kind of interesting that sometimes we have these, what they call foreign natives. What I mean by foreign natives, it's a type of a plant. Well, it's native to your area, but a different form of it that's not from the area comes and grows and naturalizes. That's what they call a foreign native. Now, I know there have been a lot of plantings of California poppies as our state flower here, and I'm not going through that because it's all poison oak. I'm going to just go back to the trail. The foreign natives are often cultivated and they naturalize. Now again, it's the same species, but a different behavior of the same species because it comes from a different part. And I think the more orange ones might be the ones from further up north, I think. So just a little something interesting. There's a nice, it's not a really old tree, but dang, this one's got some lushness to it. Nice coast live oak here. Yeah, I need to get back on the other trail. I don't know, that little scrape on the back of my heel is really bothering me. This is a beautiful, look at these grizzly old coast live oaks that are just so lusciously beautiful. I wonder if this is the trail here. Oh, yeah. My back of my heel is really annoying the heck out of me. All right, let me get back on this here and see if this is the actual trail. All right, so I'm on this little trail here. Like I said earlier, I heard bikes coming through here. I heard a guy on a bike coming through this area, but it sounded like he was down in the wash, kind of struggling to get through all those rocks. More power to him if he is getting through all that down there. Doesn't sound like that'd be the most fun thing to do, but to each his or her own, I guess. So let's see. Let's see where this leads. If this leads to anything. It's nice to be off those rocks for a little while because my shoe keeps rubbing against that irritated part. It's annoying as heck. This little side trail here, right next to these little sycamores. A lot of scrub jays out today. Wow. Okay. Let's see how far this leads before it peters out in poison oak. All right, a little puddle right here. I see a couple tadpoles swimming around in here too. Could have sworn I just saw a tadpole too. I'm assuming it's probably a Baja chorus frog tadpole, but I did see one wiggling its tail around in the water. That's usually how they get by. Is they have a fin, like a fin tail, to help them wiggle. When you see them wiggling, it's their way of moving around. Yeah. Tadpoles are really small. They're maybe not even an inch long. They're gonna be kind of hard to see on camera. Not a lot of them. I did see a couple. And there could be other species of amphibians, but I noticed that they like to be in these areas with a lot of algae. So sometimes if there's a nice pocket of algae, it might be a good place to see tadpoles. I can see one in the algae right here. Again, it won't pick up very well on camera. I'm assuming these are, again, Baja chorus frogs, probably. I think that's our most common amphibian, most common native amphibian. Now, if it were bullfrogs, they would need a lot more water than this. And bullfrog tadpoles are humongous. I've seen those before in the wild, and remember when I was a kid, I had one and was trying to raise it into a frog. It was one I actually bought in the pet store, or either that or my mother bought it for me or something like that. But I got one from the pet store once. Wow. It's pretty cool. So yeah, get to see a little tadpole action. All right, well, let's see where this leads. Okay. Here's a nice old California sycamore right here. Very old multi-trunked one. Beautiful tree. It's got a bunch of large old trunks. Actually, this right here is actually a coast live oak growing right in the middle of it. That's really rad. That's really awesome. I bet you all those other trunks are connected to one California sycamore root system, though. That's pretty rad. I like that. And a coast live oak growing in the middle of it. So yeah, I'm back on this rocky wash bottom. This is pretty cool. That was my first amphibian sighting in a short while, those little tadpoles. Again, I'm assuming those are Pseudocris hypochondriaca, the Baja chorus frog. Their tadpoles are usually pretty small. And I've seen them a few times this year, the tadpoles. It's been a long time. Previously, it had been a very long time since I've seen Baja chorus frog tadpoles. Previous to that, the last time I saw tadpoles were western toad tadpoles on one of the ski resort ponds on Waterman Mountain in the San Gabriel Mountains, LA County, Angeles National Forest. There was a reservoir, a ski resort reservoir pond high up on Waterman Mountain, and it's a breeding pool for toads. And there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tadpoles and a few young metamorphs. That was really dope. That was just so cool. Forgot about some more of those really rich orange California poppies. I wouldn't be surprised if these are the so-called foreign natives that came from further up north in hydroseed mixes that have naturalized. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not going to say with certainty, obviously, but it is kind of neat to consider. And these ones are still really, really blooming. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. These ones are definitely more orange than the ones I usually see. The ones I usually see are yellowish orange. These ones are very rich orange. Again, watch where you get close to, because there's a lot of poison oak here too. And a lot of this is, I think this is Plantago lanceolata. This is I think this is one of the non-native plantains that is pretty common here. I'm pretty sure that's Plantago lanceolata. I think I can see where the drainage culvert comes through when I was crossing over earlier. I'm pretty close to where the trail is. I'll go a little bit more distance in here, despite the fact that my left foot is very irritated right now from rubbing against the back of my shoe. But sometimes you pay the price to see the good stuff. All right, ouchies. Ooh boy. Oh, here's that coast live oak I was pointing out earlier. That's got a pretty respectable sized trunk. Wow, that's a nice looking tree. This is a beauty right here. This is Quercus agrifolia variety agrifolia. Of course, it's doing pretty well down here in the stream bed because of the underground moisture that's lasts here much longer than it does on the uplands. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scramble up these rocks back to the trail. Of course, I have to be very careful because there's a... Oh, maybe not. Maybe I'll go around the other way because there's a beehive in there. I don't want to catch wreck for that. So I'll just go back up and go up the berm a little bit and hit the trail that way. The trail's just above us here. Wow, what a magnificent tree. I still think the inland variety, Quercus agrifolia variety oxydania, gets a little bit bigger, I believe. Some of the ones I've seen at Cuyamaca Rancho State Park are massive. But then again, the more typical variety can get quite large too. All right. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go just jump up the berm and walk the short distance back to the trail, I think. Because I do not want to disturb that beehive. There's a lot of bees flying around there. All right, I'll catch you on the next clip. All right, so I'm back on this trail. Very fragrant, as these canyons usually are. There's that big oak again, up on the canyon there. That's a pretty big oak, especially considering that it's growing really high up away from the canyon bottom where they usually get larger. Yet here it is up on this north-facing slope. It's a north-facing slope. I'm guessing that partially allows for it to get some pretty good size. That is no joke right there. And closer down here, yeah, we got a lot of this. Right here, Phoniculum vulgare. The sweet fennel from Europe, I believe. I think from the Mediterranean. Very common, non-native plant that takes over a lot of real estate. I know it's been subject to a lot of non-native plant removals in these canyons, but it's very resilient. It comes back with vigor because it gets lots of little seeds that can get established, and I'm pretty sure the plant can resprout too if part of the root system persists, I'm assuming. Well, here's a very native, awesome piece of flora. Beautiful white sage, just growing really tall. Ooh, and it's really strong since it's got a lot of moisture in its tissue from the good rainy season we had. It's very, very, very pungently fragrant. And we still got these bad boys right here. Eriophyllum confertiflorum variety confertiflorum. Beautiful golden yarrow. Now, when you're up in the mountains, you get to enjoy these even later on into the summer, because higher elevations, everything blooms later. So here we got a nice mix of white sage. These ones haven't started blooming yet, but usually when they start getting these really tall stalks, it means flower buds are going to be coming soon. And of course, the smaller ones here, the black sages. So this would also be a really good area to find a hybrid black and white sage. So could be some around here. There's some beautiful black and white sages growing here. Now, these black sages are still going pretty strong. And they still have a lot of moisture in their tissues too, so they're very fragrant. And they smell refreshing. So we're just about to start going uphill back towards Genesee. So then it'll be time to go back across the street. So back to climbing up with the eucalyptus over there. My fingers smell both black and white sage at the same time. You get the sweeter black sage, and the really hard-hitting white sage. Smells pretty good. All right, well, time to start heading back over towards Genesee. All right, so I'm almost back at Genesee, up this path past the high school. I think I see something pretty curious down there. I'm gonna zoom in pretty far. It's probably gonna look kind of fuzzy, but this plant here, that shrub down there, I think that's Amorpha fruticosa, the Western false indigo, right down there. I can see little spikes of purplish flowers, which is characteristic of that plant in late spring. But yeah, that appears to be Amorpha fruticosa. That's the Western false indigo plant. I've never seen it down here. I've seen it in Orange County in Santiago Oaks Regional Park. I've seen it down there, and I think I've seen it in Powder Canyon, Roland Heights, near Hacienda Heights in southern LA County too. I've seen that. It's a low elevation plant that typically grows down in the riparian sector. Yeah, it appears to be Amorpha fruticosa, Western false indigo. It's a shrub of the pea family, Fabaceae. Sometimes I'll see it here in the lowlands. Now, the one that you usually find at slightly higher elevations to much higher elevations, and usually in chaparral and uplands, is Amorpha californica variety californica, the California false indigo, which I have not seen this low of elevation. We're only a couple hundred feet above sea level here. Pretty interesting. It's a pretty cool find. What do we have here? Here's a type of a poppy. I wonder if this is the opium poppy. Right there. That's not a native poppy, by the way. I wonder if that's Papaver somniferum. I'll have to cross-reference that. There are a couple of non-native poppies that occasionally get established here. But I'm wondering if that's definitely a different species of, that's in the genus Papaver, I believe, which is the namesake of the poppy family, Papaveraceae. That could be Papaver somniferum, but I gotta check that out. Pretty interesting finds here. So yeah, that and Western false indigo. Okay, it's a pretty good hike. Ooh, and toyon flowers starting to open up. Okay, here we are. Pinus toriana, subspecies toriana. Beautiful Tory pines. There's an old hive over there. Here I am, back across the street. Back to these beautiful Monte-Leaf poppies. There's all these big white flowers all here. There's a holly-leaf cherry in there too. It's kind of hard to see, but right there below the white flowers is a small holly-leaf cherry. Pretty cool. There's Genesee Avenue. So I'm back, going along this stretch back to the car. Now this plant here, this Melolotus, this clover, it's a species of clover. Clover comes in genus Melolotus and then also Trifolium. I think Trifolium is the more formal clover, more formal genus than Melolotus. Also, they also call them clovers as well, but usually call them sweet clovers. There we are, heading back on the trail, back to the car. All right, so back I go. La Jolla Golden Triangle Rotary Club Nature Trail, June 1998. That's what that little trail is. There's all those interpretive signs. That's the little trail I turned off to go make a small loop out of it here. Okay, well. Back into the woods. Wow. Ooh, look at this. Desert wild grape. Vitis Gerdiana. Starting to get his flower buds already, too. Yeah. Yeah, these are the flower buds right here. There's a giant crane fly that flew in there, too. Yeah, here we are back in the woods. So satisfyingly peaceful here. That's cool, we got a little section of wild grape here. Some of these got large leaves on them too, look at that. This is a very mesic area. And look at the poison oak too. Look how large those leaflets are. Some of these poison oak plants got some huge leaflets. Much larger than they usually are. Like this old sycamore trunk here too. Look at that. Well, it's hard to see in all these vines and brambles, but that's a huge tree. That's a huge trunk. Wow. Very beautiful. Some more grapevines growing down here. That's all desert wild grape. That has a little bit of a silvery sheen because of the undersides of the leaves and a little fuzziness. Little trichomes on the leaves give off a silvery sheen to the plant. Very woodsy in here. There's a lot of rose growing here too. Again, the reason why I thought, hey, this must be what Rose Canyon's name comes from. Yeah. Besides this poison oak here, there's a lot of rose going up this way. Going up this way, that's poison oak, and that's rose right there. They're all in bloom too. Yeah, I like this stretch right here. It's very beautiful, very woodsy, very peaceful. We're not that far from the top of this part of the canyon rim here. Rose Canyon's not, for a nice chunk of its length, it's not a very deep canyon, but it's just deep enough for some pretty good riparian sections like this. It's just really deep and dark and verdant. That's why it's so satisfying to come through this part right here. We'll be back out in the sunnier part. Sunnier being a relative term due to the weather today being May gray, as they call it. See, the rim of the canyon goes higher as you go over this way, it looks like. Here's some Chinese junipers right there. Those are the twisted ones. They often call Juniperus chinensis. It's Juniperus chinensis, Chinese juniper. These real twisted ones. They have these cultivars, Torulosa and Kaizuka, I believe, are the ones that make these real twisted, gnarly shapes. Very commonly planted ornamental conifers here in San Diego and Southern California. I've always been fascinated by those, well, especially when I was a kid. I really thought those were just the coolest things. Of course, they're still as cool as they ever were, in my opinion. All right, well, I'm gonna keep on trekking. See if there are any last-minute finds on the way out. Oh, I think that's a Monterey. Is that a Monterey pine or a Monterey cypress? I can't tell from here. It's that tree right there. I think it's a Monterey pine, judged by the structure of its trunk. But yeah, it's a pine. Monterey cypress is very similar in shape sometimes. Yeah, it appears to be a pine instead of a cypress. Otherwise, I would have said it was a Monterey something. Yeah, it looks like a pine. A couple of pines. Very commonly planted here in San Diego as well. Very handsome trees, too. All right, keep on trekking. All right, so a little ways into my trip back, come across a nice coyote melon right here, Cucurbita foetidissima. Every spring, a huge root system sprouts out these new stems, and you get these big salmon orangish kind of flowers, and then you get these tennis ball sized, tennis ball shaped fruits on them. We call coyote melons. And then in the fall, they die back. During the fall and winter months, they die back, the stems. So the root is perennial, but the leaves and stems are ephemeral or seasonal. So this is Cucurbita foetidissima, and they make these big, long, sprawling seasonal vines that spread over a large space. So this is one of our natives, thankfully, that is one cool plant. It comes from a humongous root inside. Very heavy root or tuber or something like that down in the soil. It's a little early from the bloom, but they will bloom pretty soon. And they're related to squashes, pumpkins, and other melons. So they are in the Cucurbitaceae, the melon and gourd family. So, pretty cool. During the spring and summer, they will spread out. A lot of times you'll find them growing in these disturbed areas here. So, they spread out. And some of these got some huge leaves on them too. They are such cool plants. Here's another smaller one here. Really cool plant. And then towards the later part of the summer, they'll have these, again, tennis ball sized, tennis ball shaped, even tennis ball colored, striped melons on them. There's a flower right here. It's actually more of a yellowish, but yeah, you can kind of see the little yellow flower in there, yellow orangish flower. So the flower itself is quite a beautiful flower, and it's quite a large one, of course. And then the fruits come out, and they're really beautiful too. And there's western Jimson weed, Datura wrightii. It's a native, short-lived perennial, sometimes listed as annual though. So I guess it could be either an annual or a short-lived perennial. And that's in the nightshade family. So yeah, and this plant right here is a very common non-native plant. This is called prickly lettuce, Lactuca cereola. And then they grow very tall, and then they get these cymes of small yellow flowers during late summer. It's a summer annual in the sunflower family, the Asteraceae. And the leaves are very prickly to the touch. And it's related to the lettuce, the actual lettuce that you eat. It's a relative of it. And of course, coast prickly pear, getting ready to flower. So, pretty cool stuff here. Like I said, sometimes you got to look a little more closely at it to appreciate it. But it's there. And of course, we've got these huge mustards. These mustards got so big this year because of the copious rainfall from this rainy season. It's absolutely humongous mustard plants. Ooh, there's a beehive here too. These look like European honeybees, but yeah, right in the base of this Sambucus nigra cerulean, this blue elderberry, we got a little honeybee hive. That's what we like to call bee trees. All right, well, still trekking my way. I'm just slowly savoring it. I'm not rushing. I'm not rushing for anything. There's no need to. This is not a hike that you rush to get to the summit of and try to get a good timing on. It's something you just enjoy, you relax, and you soak it in. That's the best thing you can do with these canyon hikes. Just soak it in and enjoy it. We're not rushing to climb a mountain before it gets too late and you have to head back in the dark. This short out and back walk is just very mellow and peaceful. All right, catch you up the way. So I'm nearing the access to Regents Road, which is I'm going to turn left here at the junction and start heading uphill towards the rim of the canyon where my car's parked. Coming across this non-native nightshade plant here. This one right here. Solanum, this looks like Solanum elagnifolium. Elagnifolium comes from the resemblance of its leaves to this plant called the Russian olive, which is Elaeagnus angustifolium. And there are other species of Elaeagnus as well. And that's a type of tree that has been planted out here in the United States, which is naturalized. I don't remember ever seeing that tree up close, that tree or large shrub. I think I've seen it out of the window of a car before, but never been up to it. But it's this small kind of, I believe this is an annual. I think it's an annual. And you get these really striking purple flowers with these yellow stamens that are very, very conspicuous. And then later on turning into these nightshade berries. This must be last year's, I think those are last year's plants. So I believe this is an annual. So the plant itself will die back after fruiting. Annuals are also considered monocarps because they flower and set seed once usually and then die. But monocarps can also refer to plants that live for several years and then finally one year they flower, fruit, and then die off. So, yeah, it appears to be Solanum elagnifolium. It's not native. I forget where it's native to, but it's pretty crazy. I've seen a few populations down here in the canyon. I've seen a few here in the San Diego area. So yeah, trail to Genesee Avenue, 0.7 miles. So this is where I start going back uphill towards the car. So yeah, like I said, Elaeagnifolium, the epithet or species name of the plant, refers to its leaf being similar to a large deciduous shrub or tree in the genus Elaeagnus. Again, there's a tree called Elaeagnus angustifolium, and that's the they call Russian olive. It's not in the olive family. I actually forget what family it's in right now. I'll look it up and put it on the screen. Which is a large deciduous shrub or tree. Sheds its leaves for winter. And I think it can be found naturalizing here in parts of Southern California, especially in hot summer and cold winter places. I think it might be its own family, Elaeagnaceae, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen the tree up close, but I'm pretty sure I recognize it. But there are other species of Elaeagnus as well. So now we just got to go begin the little uphill climb here back to where I'm parked at the very end of Regents Road. Cross over this cool little bridge here. Still a little trickle in the water. Very beautiful. All right. I'm just about back at the peach tree. Little peach tree thickets over here. I don't know what happened with this one. This one's dying off. That's kind of sad. These ones seem to be okay here. That's so cool. A couple random peach trees here. I wonder if these just naturalized here from somebody's fruit trees. Seeds drop down in here and naturalized. But look at this, it's cool. My neighbor behind me has a peach tree which branches well into our yard where I live in Santee. And I got peach seedlings germinating underneath underneath the branches of it in my yard. And of course, you know me, I'm looking at it, admiring it, and happy. Yeah, these are such cool, I love such cool trees, all these little peach trees. Beautiful. Ooh. Is that a female Anna's hummingbird, I think? Wow. That is so cool. Yeah, that's a female. I think. I didn't get a really close look. It didn't really seem to have, she didn't really seem to have a lot of color. Usually the females are less ornate than the males. Still nevertheless beautiful in my opinion. I just happen to think wild animals are beautiful in their own rights. Still a beautiful sight in my opinion. Here we are. Remember this old olive tree here? It's starting to flower too. Olea europaea, the European olive tree. I always enjoy this one when I come down here. All the flowers they're still in bud mostly. A few of them are opening up. But yeah, it's a European olive tree. Every now and then you come across wild ones that just grow here on their own. Yeah, these here appear to be geraniums. Wild geraniums. I'm not sure what species that is. It could be Geranium dissectum, cutleaf geranium. I'm assuming it's the non-native one. It's pretty cool. Seen a few of those today. All right. Well, just about back. All right, here's the trailhead. Get to the top and I'm gonna get something to drink and start heading probably off to another spot for a little while. Here's the trailhead, the end of Regents Road. Thanks for watching my adventure. Hope you enjoyed it.